Javier had nothing special about him. He was an ordinary man, someone who went unnoticed. On the city streets, every morning, he took the same route to work, crossing the same park, greeting the same familiar faces, and following his routine without variations. However, that morning, something different awaited him. He walked with his usual brisk pace, the sound of his shoes echoing on the pavement still, damp with morning dew. He carried a briefcase in his left hand and a steaming coffee in the right, trying to wake himself up with each sip. The routine enveloped him in a bubble of normality, a monotony that, until that day, he found comforting. Suddenly, as he turned a corner to shortcut through a narrow alley, his peripheral vision caught something unusual. A dark lump lay in the shadows, barely visible in the dawn's dim light. He stopped abruptly, his heart skipped a beat, and in a moment of doubt and curiosity, he decided to approach. The lump revealed itself to be a man, bloodied and evidently injured. The stranger's shirt was soaked in crimson liquid, his face pale and contorted. Javier's eyes scanned the surroundings, expecting to see someone else, a witness, an aggressor, any clue of what had happened. But they were alone. Without thinking too much, Javier knelt beside the man. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" he asked urgently, though he knew the answer was obvious. The man opened his eyes with difficulty. His breathing was shallow and painful. He tried to say something but only emitted a weak groan before falling unconscious again. Javier, not exactly knowing what to do but aware of the gravity of the situation, took out his phone and called emergency services. With trembling hands, he gave his location and a quick description of what he saw, his voice laden with a mix of fear and determination. While waiting for the ambulance, he tried to recall any first aid course, anything that could help. "Don't worry, you'll be okay," he murmured more to calm himself than the injured man. He tore a piece of his own shirt and used it to apply pressure to one of the more severe wounds. Time seemed to stand still, each second an eternity, until he finally heard the distant but growing sound of sirens. The ambulance arrived, and the paramedics took control of the situation with professional efficiency. Javier watched, feeling helpless and relieved at the same time, as the team quickly worked to stabilize the stranger before loading him onto a stretcher and taking him to the nearest hospital. "Do you know him?" one of the paramedics asked before leaving. Javier shook his head, feeling a strange connection to the man he had found but unable to explain it. "No, I just found him here," he responded, still trying to process what had happened. As the ambulance drove away, Javier stood in the alley, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He couldn't know at that moment, but that chance encounter would change his life in ways he could never have imagined. The echo of the sirens faded as Javier remained in the alley, his heart still pounding. He felt an uncontrollable urge to follow the ambulance, to ensure the stranger was safe. Without hesitation, he decided to set aside his routine and hurry to the hospital. He arrived, panting, with sweat beading on his forehead, just as the paramedics were bringing the injured man inside. "Where can I find information about him?" he asked, his voice trembling with worry and adrenaline. A nurse, noticing his distress, told him to wait while they attended to the patient. The hours in the hospital waiting room seemed endless. Javier couldn't stop thinking about the man he had found, his mind flooded with questions. Who was he? What had happened to him? Why was he there, alone and injured? Finally, a doctor approached. "Are you the one who found him?" he asked. Javier nodded firmly. "He's in critical but stable condition. Your quick intervention probably saved his life. He has no identification, so we don't know who he is. Do you have any information that could help us?" Javier shook his head. "I found him in an alley. He was alone. I have no idea who he is." His words resonated with a feeling of helplessness, but also responsibility. The doctor sighed. We've done what we can for now. He'll be here for at least a few days, while he recovers. If you want to visit him, you can do so later. Maybe when he wakes up, we can get more information. That night, Javier couldn't sleep. The images of the injured man replayed in his mind, mixed with fragments of thoughts and emotions he couldn't order. He knew he had to return to the hospital the next day. He needed to ensure the man was okay and perhaps get some answers. The next morning, Javier arrived early at the hospital. He approached the reception and asked about the injured man. He's in room 204, the receptionist informed him with a kind smile. He hasn't woken up yet, but you can wait there if you wish. The room was small and austere, with the typical smell of hospital disinfectant. Javier sat in a chair next to the bed, observing the man he now knew was named Mateo, according to the temporary tag on his wrist. The rhythmic sounds of medical machines were the only sign of life. In that quiet, uncertain moment, hours passed, and finally, Mateo began to move slowly, opening his eyes with effort. His first words were an inaudible murmur, but soon his voice became clearer. Where am I?" "You're in the hospital," Javier responded softly. "I found you injured in an alley and brought you here. You're safe now." Mateo looked at him with a mixture of confusion and gratitude. "Thank you," he murmured, before closing his eyes again, exhausted from the effort of speaking. Javier watched his calm return to Mateo's face, feeling an even stronger connection with him. He had done the right thing, but he knew his involvement in Mateo's life was not over. The following day brought a series of questions from both the police and the doctors. Javier answered as best he could, but always ended up at the same point. He didn't know who Mateo was or what had happened to him. However, his decision to help without thinking twice had made him Mateo's only link to the outside world. As days passed, Javier became a constant presence in room 204. The nurses already knew him, and the hospital staff began calling him Mateo's guardian angel. However, despite his frequent visits, Mateo remained a mystery. He carried no identification, and when he regained consciousness, he seemed disoriented, unable to recall important details of his life. "Do you remember your name?" Javier asked during one of his visits, searching for any clue to his identity. "Mateo," he replied, with a weak but sure voice. "Beyond that, everything is blurry. I don't know who I am or what happened to me." Javier watched him, feeling deep empathy. There was something in Mateo's eyes that revealed a complex and possibly painful life. "Don't worry, we'll find answers," he assured him. "I'm here to help you." Days turned into weeks, and as Mateo recovered physically, his memory remained an enigma. The doctors found no record of his existence in hospital systems or police databases. It was as if Mateo had no past, as if he had appeared out of nowhere in that alley. Javier began investigating on his own. He asked questions in the neighborhood where he had found him, looking for any clue that might lead to discovering who Mateo was. People remembered seeing Javier helping an injured man, but no one recognized Mateo or knew how he had gotten there. In one of his visits, Javier brought a notebook and a pen, encouraging Mateo to write down anything he remembered. "Sometimes writing helps unlock memories," he suggested, hoping that any detail, no matter how small, could offer a clue. Mateo took the pen with trembling hands, his face a mix of concentration and frustration. "I remember a smell, jasmine, and a song. I don't know which one, but it makes me feel sad. Everything is so confusing," he said, his voice breaking. Javier listened with patience and empathy. He knew that forcing memories was not the solution, but he also understood Mateo's desperation to regain his identity. "It's a good start," he encouraged him. "Little by little, everything will make sense." Meanwhile, the connection between Javier and Mateo deepened. Mateo's gratitude towards Javier transformed into genuine friendship, and Javier found in Mateo someone who, despite being a stranger, awakened in him a need for protection and care. One day, while they were talking, Mateo shared something that had been on his mind. "I don't know why, but I feel like I was running from something. It's a constant feeling of danger, as if someone were looking for me." Javier leaned forward, his eyes reflecting concern. "Do you have any idea who or why?" Mateo shook his head, frustrated. "No, it's just a feeling, but it's strong. I need to understand. What happened to me?" Mateo's words resonated with Javier, igniting his determination to help him discover the truth. He decided he wouldn't rest until Mateo could remember his past and feel safe again. He knew they were facing a complicated mystery, but also that he wasn't alone in this mission. The friendship and gratitude they shared would give them the strength needed to face whatever came. Mateo's stay in the hospital was a constant reminder of his vulnerability, but also of the resilience they were both developing. Each day was another step towards recovery and, hopefully, towards the answers they so longed for. Javier committed himself to not abandoning Mateo, aware that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but also of the possibility of a new beginning. Days turned into a routine where the friendship between Javier and Mateo flourished. Javier, faithful to his commitment, visited Mateo every day after work, bringing books, magazines, and sometimes just company. Mateo, for his part, looked forward to those visits, finding in Javier an anchor in the midst of his turbulent sea of uncertainty. One afternoon, while reading aloud a passage from a book he had brought, Javier stopped to observe Mateo. There was something in his gaze, a mix of gratitude and sadness, that deeply moved him. "What are you thinking?" Javier asked, closing the book and focusing entirely on his friend. "I'm thinking how strange all this is," Mateo replied, his voice full of contained emotion. "I don't know who I really am, but I feel like I've found a part of myself in this room, in this friendship with you. It's comforting despite everything." Javier smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "You have also changed something in me, Mateo. Before finding you, my life was a series of monotonous days, but now I feel like I have a purpose, a reason to strive beyond myself." While they talked, their conversations became increasingly personal. Mateo spoke of his dreams and fears, of the blurry images that sometimes invaded his mind, while Javier shared anecdotes from his own life, his struggles, and his joys. The mutual vulnerability they allowed each other was the foundation of a sincere and profound friendship. One day, Mateo confessed to Javier something that had been tormenting him. "Sometimes I dream of a place, a large and old house. There's a garden full of jasmines and a feeling of sadness. I think it's a memory, but I can't be sure." Javier mentally noted every detail, determined to help Mateo unravel his past. "We will find that house, Mateo. We will discover what it all means. You're not alone in this." Javier's promise resonated in the room, laden with hope and determination. That same afternoon, they began planning how they could search for more clues about Mateo's past. Javier contacted a friend who worked at a local newspaper, asking for help in investigating disappearances and any incidents related to unidentified persons. As Mateo continued to recover physically, his emotional state also improved, driven by Javier's unconditional support. They went for walks in the park near the hospital, breathing fresh air and enjoying simple company. Those moments, though simple, were fundamental in strengthening their bond and giving Mateo a sense of normalcy and hope. One day, while they were in the park, Mateo sat on a bench, looking at Javier with a serious expression. "Javier, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for me. You've been more than a friend. You've been my salvation." Javier sat next to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You don't need to thank me, Mateo. That's what friendship is about. We're here for each other. What matters is that we're moving forward together. The connection they felt was more than just friendship. It was a bond forged in adversity and hope, a partnership that promised to withstand any obstacle. Both knew that the search for the truth about Mateo's past would be arduous, but with the strength of their friendship, they were prepared to face any challenge that arose. As the sun set, painting the sky with warm tones, Javier and Mateo returned to the hospital, feeling more united than ever. They knew their journey was just beginning, but with each step, each small discovery, they were getting closer to unraveling the mystery of Mateo's life. And in that process, they found renewed hope in the power of friendship and mutual support. Weeks continued to pass, and as Mateo kept recovering, fragments of his life slowly began to emerge from the fog of his memory. Javier, committed to helping his friend, became an amateur detective, gathering any clue that might shed light on Mateo's past. One afternoon, while they were in the hospital room, Mateo began to talk about a clearer memory. Javier, last night I had a dream. No, more like a memory. There was a man, older, with gray hair. He was angry, very angry with me. He called me by another name, something like
Matias.
Javier noted the name in his notebook, frowning.
Matias.
It could be your real name. Do you remember anything else about him? Where were you? Mateo closed his eyes, concentrating. We were in a large, luxurious office. There were many papers on a desk. I think it was a discussion about money, business, something important. I felt guilty, as if I had done something wrong. Javier nodded, processing the information. It could be someone important in your life, someone who might have answers. We need to keep investigating. They decided to search business databases and local news for people named Matias involved in recent incidents. Javier contacted his journalist friend again, explaining the new lead and asking for help in tracking any relevant information. Days later, Javier received a call from the journalist. I found something. There's a Matias who fits the description. Matias Rodriguez. He was involved in a financial scandal a few months ago. He was accused of embezzlement at a large company but disappeared before authorities could arrest him. Javier was breathless. Where was that company? In the city, near the financial district. There are rumors that the Rodriguez family is very powerful and that the case was quickly silenced by internal influences. Javier thanked his friend and headed to the hospital to tell Mateo what he had discovered. Entering the room, he saw Mateo looking out the window, lost in thought. Mateo, I think we have something, he said, closing the door behind him. Mateo turned, his face a mix of hope and fear. What have you found? Javier explained everything he had found about Matias Rodriguez and the financial scandal. It could be your true identity, and that company might be the key to understanding what happened to you and why you were injured. Mateo nodded slowly, processing the information. It makes sense. I remember the feeling of being in danger, of running from something. If that older man is my father, then it might all be related. They decided that the next time Mateo felt strong enough, they would try to visit the financial district, hoping that something would trigger more memories. Meanwhile, they continued their investigations from the hospital room, using the internet and Javier's contacts to gather more information. One day, while reviewing old articles about the Rodriguez family, they found a photo. Mateo stared at the image, tears welling up in his eyes. That's him, he said, pointing to the gray-haired man in the photo. That's the man from my memory. My father. The revelation was an emotional blow for Mateo, but also a crucial step towards the truth. Knowing he had a family, although complicated and possibly dangerous, gave him a renewed sense of identity. Javier, we need to go there. I need to face this. I need to know who I really am and why I was running. Javier took his hand, squeezing it firmly. "We'll go, Mateo. You're not alone in this. Together, we'll find the answers you need." Javier's promise resonated in the room, a promise of unwavering loyalty and support. With each new piece of the puzzle, they got closer to discovering the truth about Mateo's past and the mystery surrounding him. They were ready to face any obstacle, knowing that their friendship and determination would be enough to overcome any adversity. One morning, while Javier was at his office, he received a call that would change the course of their search. "Mr. Martinez," said a serious and professional voice on the other end of the line. "I'm Roberto Valverde, a private investigator. I'm looking for a man named Mateo Rodriguez. I understand you might have information about him." Javier's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, I know him. He's in the hospital recovering from a serious injury. How do you know about him?" Martinez, Mateo Rodriguez is the missing son of Emilio Rodriguez, a very influential business magnate. "I've been working on this case for months, and your call led me to him." Javier was speechless for a moment, processing the information. "I had no idea. Mateo has been recovering and trying to remember his past. We knew there was something important, but not this. It's crucial that we talk in person. There are many details I need to share with you and Mateo. Can we meet at the hospital this afternoon?" Javier agreed, and after hanging up, he went straight to the hospital. Upon entering Mateo's room, he found him looking out the window with a worried expression. "Mateo, I received a call from a private investigator. He says you're the missing son of Emilio Rodriguez." Mateo turned to Javier, his face a mix of surprise and fear. "What? How?" "The investigator wants to meet with us this afternoon. Apparently, your father has been looking for you for months." The hours passed slowly until Roberto Valverde arrived at the hospital. He was a middle-aged man with an imposing presence and a keen look. He greeted Javier and then addressed Mateo. "Mr. Rodriguez, your father has been very worried about you. There's been a plot against you within the family business, and we believe your disappearance is directly related to this." Mateo frowned, trying to process the information. "A plot? What are you talking about?" Roberto took out a thick folder and began laying out documents on the table next to the bed. "The Rodriguez company has been under intense power struggles. Some high-ranking executives, including your cousin, have been trying to take control. We believe your accident and subsequent disappearance were orchestrated to keep you out of the way." Javier and Mateo exchanged looks, astonished by the magnitude of what they were hearing. "And my father? Is he safe?" Mateo asked with a trembling voice. "He's fine, but very worried about you. He's been receiving threats and suspects someone from within is behind all this. We need to ensure he's protected and help us unmask the culprits." Mateo remained silent, absorbing the gravity of the situation. "I can't believe it. All this time, I was running from my own family." Javier placed a hand on Mateo's shoulder, conveying support. "You're not alone in this, Mateo. We'll find a way to resolve it." Roberto nodded. "It's crucial that we keep all this secret for now. No one outside this room should know we found Mateo. We need to devise a plan to reunite him with his father safely and expose the plot without alerting the traitors." Roberto's revelation left both men in a state of alert and determination. They knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but with the truth in their hands and the friendship that united them, they were prepared to face any challenge. As they left the hospital, Roberto looked at Mateo seriously. "You are the key to unmasking all this. Your testimony and presence are vital. You must be prepared to face those who tried to destroy you." Mateo nodded firmly, finding renewed strength within. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family and reclaim my life. I won't let them get away with it." Javier, observing the determination in his friend's eyes, knew they were ready for the battle ahead. With a firm alliance and mutual support, they would move forward with courage towards the final confrontation determined to reveal the truth and restore justice. The following days were filled with preparations and carefully crafted plans. Roberto Valverde, the private investigator, became a pillar of support, guiding Mateo and Javier through the labyrinth of betrayals and deceit that had enveloped the Rodriguez family. During one of their meetings, Roberto presented more evidence that reinforced the magnitude of the plot against Mateo. On a rainy afternoon, Mateo, still recovering, looked at Javier with a deeply conflicted expression. "Javier, I have to tell you something else. You need to know everything before we move forward." Javier sat across from him, a mix of curiosity and concern.
Tell me, Mateo.
"I'm here for whatever you need." Mateo took a deep breath before speaking. "I wasn't just running from the plot against me. I was also escaping a past that shames me. During my time at the company, I did things I'm not proud of. I was led by greed and power. That argument with my father, the one I remembered, was because I got involved in questionable decisions that put the company at risk." Javier frowned, absorbing the revelation. What kind of decisions? Financial transactions that bordered on illegality, deals with people we knew were not trustworthy. I was blinded by ambition. When everything came to light, I knew I had crossed a line and that there were not only external enemies but also internal ones. Javier looked at his friend with empathy. "Mateo, we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after recognizing them. And you are here, willing to face the consequences and protect your family. That says a lot about the kind of person you really are." Javier's words were a balm for Mateo, who found in them the necessary strength to continue. He knew he had to face his mistakes and those who had betrayed him, but he wouldn't do it alone. One morning, Mateo received a call from his father, Emilio Rodriguez. Emilio's voice, filled with emotion and relief, resonated on the speakerphone. "Matias, son, thank God you're okay. I've been desperate to find you. Dad, there's so much I need to tell you. I've remembered more things and I made mistakes, but I've also discovered that there are people in the company trying to destroy us. I know, son. That's why you must come back. Together, we'll face those who have betrayed us. I trust you, Matias. I know you'll do the right thing." The conversation with his father renewed Mateo's determination. They decided to meet in a safe place to plan their next move. Javier, always by his side, made sure everything was ready for the meeting. The day of the meeting arrived and Mateo, along with Javier and Roberto, headed to a safe place outside the city. The reunion with his father was emotional. Tears of relief and regret mixed as they hugged. "Dad, I'm so sorry for everything. But now we have to focus on stopping those who want to harm us." Emilio nodded, wiping away his tears. "The important thing is that you're here now, and together, we'll face this." Roberto began to explain the plan in detail. "We have enough evidence to implicate the traitors, but we need more. The best way to proceed is to expose them from within, using Matias as bait. We must act with caution." Mateo accepted his role, knowing it would be dangerous but necessary. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes to protect our family and the company." Javier looked at him with pride and concern. "You're not alone in this, Mateo. I'm with you until the end." The preparations intensified, and each step was meticulously calculated. Mateo would infiltrate the company again, pretending he remembered nothing, while Roberto and his team gathered more evidence. The plan was in motion, and although the tension was palpable, so was the determination of all involved. The confrontation with the truth and the hidden enemies was approaching, but with friendship and mutual support, Mateo and Javier were ready to face it all. The atmosphere was tense as the day of the infiltration approached. Javier, although determined to support Mateo, couldn't help but worry about the risks involved. As they both prepared in the hospital room, Javier couldn't take his eyes off his friend. Mateo, are you sure about this? It's a huge risk. If something goes wrong, we could lose everything. Mateo nodded firmly. I know, Javier, but I can't keep living in fear. I need to face this and clear my name and my family's. Besides, I trust Roberto and our plan. But more than anything, I trust you. You've been by my side from the beginning, and I know we can do this together. Javier sighed, feeling the weight of the decision he had to make. He knew that regardless of the outcome, this would be a turning point in their lives. Mateo, I can't stop thinking about all the possibilities. If something happens to you, I couldn't forgive myself. Mateo approached and put a hand on Javier's shoulder. Javier, we've come this far together. I can't do it without you. But I also understand if you decide it's too much. The choice is yours. Javier looked at his friend, seeing the determination in his eyes. He knew that Mateo was willing to risk everything for the truth and justice, and that gave him the strength he needed. I'm not going to leave you alone in this, Mateo. We'll face it together. But I promise we'll be careful. I don't want to lose my best friend. Javier's decision was clear. He committed to moving forward, despite the fear and uncertainty. The friendship and loyalty he felt for Mateo were stronger than any fear. With the plan in motion, Javier and Mateo headed to the Rodriguez Company building. Mateo, dressed in a suit symbolizing his return, walked with firm steps, while Javier followed closely, ready to intervene if things got complicated. Inside the building, everything seemed normal, but they both knew the calm was only superficial. The eyes of the employees followed Mateo with curiosity and surprise. Upon reaching his father's office, Emilio, the three met for a final review of the plan. Matias, you have to stay calm and follow the script. We'll be monitoring everything from the security room, Roberto said, adjusting the hidden microphone in Mateo's suit. Understood. I'm ready, Mateo replied, taking a deep breath. Javier looked at him with a mix of pride and apprehension. I'll be in the security room with you, Mateo. I won't lose sight of you for a second. Mateo smiled, grateful. Thank you, Javier. Knowing you're here makes all the difference. The operation began, and Mateo headed to the boardroom, where the main executives were meeting. The tension was palpable as he entered and took a seat, pretending everything was in order. Gentlemen, I've returned to resume my place in the company, Mateo announced, observing the reactions of those present. Some seemed genuinely relieved, while others showed signs of nervousness. One of the executives, his cousin Ernesto, tried to disguise his surprise. Matias, it's good to see you back. But are you sure you're ready for this? Many things have happened in your absence. Mateo looked at him coldly. I'm ready, and I intend to find out everything that has happened in my absence. Meanwhile, in the security room, Javier and Roberto monitored every move and word through the cameras and hidden microphone. Everything is going according to plan, Roberto murmured, focused on the screen. One of the executives, clearly uncomfortable, began to ask evasive questions. Mateo, following the plan, confronted him with documents and evidence that Roberto had gathered. The tension in the room increased as accusations and defenses intensified. Finally, Ernesto lost his temper. This is a farce. You can't come here and accuse us without concrete evidence, he shouted, revealing more than he intended. Roberto smiled at the implicit confession. We got him, he whispered to Javier. We just need a little more. Seeing the opportunity, Mateo pressed further. Ernesto, I know what you did. I know you're behind the plot to get me out of the company, and I won't let you get away with it. The confrontation culminated with Ernesto attempting to leave the room, only to find security waiting for him. It's over, Roberto said, taking control of the situation. With the culprits detained and the evidence presented, the truth finally came to light. Mateo and Javier exhausted but relieved, embraced in the security room. "We did it," Javier whispered, feeling immense gratitude for having faced the challenge together. Mateo, with tears of relief, responded, "Thank you, Javier. I couldn't have done it without you." Javier's decision to stay and face the danger alongside his friend had paid off. They had faced the truth and prevailed, and now they could look to the future with hope and determination, knowing that their friendship and courage had allowed them to overcome any obstacle. The air was filled with tension as the day of the final confrontation approached. With Ernesto and other conspirators detained, there was a sense of relief but also uncertainty. Javier and Mateo knew that not all responsible had been identified and that the danger had not completely disappeared. The group of allies, led by Roberto, prepared for the decisive operation that would uncover the entire truth and ensure the safety of Mateo and his family. Roberto, always meticulous and calculating, gathered the team in a conference room for a final meeting before the confrontation. "We've made great progress, but there is still work to be done. We have enough evidence to implicate more people, but we must ensure that every piece of the puzzle is in place. Mateo, your role will be crucial in this. Are you ready?" Mateo nodded with determination. "Yes, I'm ready. I can't keep living in fear. I need to do this, for my family and for myself." Javier, always by his friend's side, looked at Roberto. "What exactly is the plan? We need to be prepared for any eventuality." Roberto laid out a map of the Rodriguez Company building. "We have information that some of the remaining executives are planning a secret meeting tonight to discuss their next moves. Our mission is to infiltrate that meeting and capture the entire conversation on audio and video. This will give us the necessary evidence to dismantle the plot completely." The plan was risky but necessary. Mateo and Javier mentally prepared for what could be the most dangerous moment of their lives. That night, they headed to the company building, where the lights still shone brightly despite the late hour. Roberto, along with a small team of technicians and security agents, was already in position. "Mateo, Javier, you two will enter through the main entrance as if you were going to review some important documents. This shouldn't raise suspicion. Meanwhile, we will infiltrate the meeting room through the ventilation ducts and place the recording devices." Mateo and Javier nodded and headed to the entrance. Adrenaline coursed through their veins. As they passed through security without incident, they took the elevator, heading to the floor where the meeting would take place. Upon arrival, they found an atmosphere charged with tension. The executives, seeing Mateo, showed a mix of surprise and distrust. "Matias, we didn't expect to see you here at this hour," one of them said, trying to maintain composure. Mateo smiled calmly. "I'm just reviewing some important documents. I won't take much time." While Mateo and Javier maintained appearances, Roberto and his team infiltrated the meeting room. They placed the recording devices in strategic locations, ensuring that every word spoken would be captured. The meeting began shortly after, with the executives discussing their plans in low voices. The recordings captured every detail, from attempts to cover up their actions to discussions on how to eliminate any threat to their power. Suddenly, one of the executives stood up, visibly nervous. "We can't allow Matias to keep interfering. We must take drastic measures." Mateo, hearing this through the earpiece Roberto had given him, exchanged a look with Javier. It was time to act. With a determined move, Mateo stood up and entered the meeting room, followed closely by Javier. "It's over," Mateo exclaimed, facing the conspirators. "Everything you've said is being recorded. We have enough evidence to ensure that all of you face the consequences of your actions." Executives tried to escape, but Roberto's security team was ready. Within minutes, everyone was detained and escorted out of the building. The sense of relief and triumph was undeniable. Roberto, looking at Mateo and Javier with pride, said, We did it. You've uncovered the whole truth. The company and your family will be safe now. Mateo, feeling a mix of emotions, turned to Javier. Thank you, Javier. I couldn't have done this without you. Javier smiled, feeling deep gratitude and satisfaction. I'll always be here for you, Mateo. We're a team. With the conspirators arrested and the truth exposed, Mateo and Javier knew they had faced and overcome one of the greatest challenges of their lives. They had proven that, with courage and mutual support, they could face any obstacle. Now, they could look to the future with hope and confidence, knowing they had done the right thing and were stronger than ever. With the conspirators detained and the truth exposed, Mateo and Javier's lives began to transform in ways they had never imagined. The news of the dismantled plot and Mateo Rodriguez return to the Rodriguez Company was received with astonishment and relief in the media and the business community. The company, now free of traitors, began a new era of transparency and ethics, led by Mateo and his father, Emilio. The first board meeting after the arrests was emotional and hopeful. Mateo addressed the employees with a mix of gratitude and determination. We have gone through difficult times, but we have emerged stronger and more united. I promise to lead this company with integrity and respect, and together we will build a bright future. The employees applauded fervently, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and confidence in their leadership. Javier, watching from the front row, felt deep satisfaction. It had been an arduous journey, but seeing his friend reclaim his place and lead the company to a new beginning was worth every sacrifice. A few days later, Mateo and Javier met in Mateo's office. The atmosphere was relaxed, full of optimism. Javier, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. Without you, I wouldn't be here, Mateo said, his voice full of sincerity. Javier smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. Mateo, we did it together. Our friendship and determination brought us here, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning. Javier's words proved prophetic. Over time, the Rodriguez Company thrived under Mateo's renewed leadership. The new direction brought innovations and policies that benefited both employees and the community. Mateo became a symbol of resilience and ethics, earning the respect and admiration of many. Meanwhile, Javier's life also changed drastically. The bravery and loyalty he had demonstrated did not go unnoticed. He was promoted at his job and received multiple offers for collaboration on important projects. His heroic act had not only saved Mateo's life but also transformed his own destiny. One afternoon, while walking through the park where they used to meet, Mateo looked at Javier with a smile. Do you remember when all this started? I never would have imagined that. Finding myself injured in that alley would change our lives so much. Javier nodded, looking around with a mix of nostalgia and gratitude. Yes, it seems like a lifetime ago, but every step brought us here, and I wouldn't change anything we did. Mateo stopped and looked at Javier, his expression serious. Javier, I would like you to officially join the company. I need someone I trust by my side, someone who shares my values and vision. What do you say? Javier, surprised and honored, smiled broadly. It would be an honor, Mateo. Working with you and helping lead the company into the future is an opportunity one can't pass up. Javier's decision to join the Rodriguez Company marked the beginning of a new phase in their lives. Working side by side, Mateo and Javier implemented significant changes and forged alliances that propelled the company to new heights. Their story of friendship and courage became a source of inspiration for all who knew them. Years passed, and with each challenge they faced, their bond strengthened. The Rodriguez Company consolidated as a model of success and ethics in the business world, thanks to Mateo's visionary leadership and Javier's unwavering support. One day, while celebrating an important anniversary of the company, Mateo addressed the employees, and collaborators. Today we celebrate not only the success of our company, but also the values that have guided us: integrity, friendship, and determination. This company is a testament to what we can achieve when we work together and support each other. The ovation that followed was deafening, and Javier, watching from the stage, felt deep gratitude and pride. He knew they had come a long way since that casual encounter in the alley, and their friendship had been the cornerstone of their success. At the end of the celebration, Mateo and Javier stepped away from the noise to contemplate the view from the building's terrace. The sun was setting, painting the sky with golden and pink tones. "Mateo, we did the impossible," Javier said, his voice filled with emotion. "Yes, we did," Mateo replied, looking at his friend with gratitude and admiration. "And we did it together." As the sun set, illuminating their faces with its last rays, both knew that their journey was far from over, but they also knew that, whatever the future held, they would face it together, with the same friendship and determination that had brought them so far. What an exciting journey we've just experienced together. But this is only the beginning. Click on the next video that appears on your screen and keep enjoying amazing content. If you want me to keep bringing you these stories every day, consider supporting me with a coffee through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the pinned comment. Your support is what makes it possible for me to keep telling these stories. See you in the next video.